Hi everybody. Today we're going to be talking about lighting, specifically everything here in the hierarchy. When you right click it, you're going to see light. Everything in here we're going to talk about today, or try to. If not, I'm going to have to split it into two parts. So let's just get started. When you create a project, you'll have your directional light already, and you'll have a main camera. I created these capsules and cubes, and I actually parented the main camera to the capsule. Uh, I was messing around with it. I added a script to the capsule to move the player around and rotate the camera. I'm not gonna teach you guys that today, but if you guys want to learn that, let me know. And I'll try to speed that video up. But let's get started. So first of all, there's directional light. If you go to lighting, that's the first thing. And directional light, it has these components to transform the light, and the light component. The light component has the type. There's all these types right here. Now, first of all, I'm going to talk about the transform component. The transform component, um, the only thing you really need for the light would be the rotation. So if you rotate it, you could see the shadows actually moving, and the sun is actually coming out and going back in. So now you could see like a sunset, and you could also see a sunrise. If you keep on rotating it, it gets dark. There's no shadows, and you can see the sunrise again. If you move it on the Y, you could you should eventually see the sun. See, there's a sun right there. Now you can see it better. Just a little sun. What is sunset, and then there's the sunrise. But now it rises on the opposite side. So if you wanted if you wanted to rise on the same side, just scale it on the negative way, or just play around with it. You'll figure it out. And then after that, you could see the shadows. You could change the color, any color you want. So you could have it. It changes the actual sun color, and the rays of light change as well. Uh, you could have the mode between real time mode, mixed, or baked. So real time is just it happens right now. In real time, mixed, it's a mixture of real time and baked. Baked would be so like light maps. They What a light map is pretty much it takes all the static objects. Static objects would be all the objects that don't move. So if like a building's not gonna move, you set it to static up here, and then when it does bake the map, it knows that that object won't move, so the lighting won't change on that object. So then after that, you could change the intensity, so nothing at all, or as intense as you want. The indirect multiplier has to do with the global illumination. So you could have no global illumination, or you could have you know a multiplier of it. And global illumination is just pretty much like the bouncing of the lights of certain objects. So so a lot of times light will bounce off one object to another. If you have this on, I mean off, they will not bounce. But if you have it on, they will. Yeah, I'll show you better in another video what I'm talking about. Uh, but just to keep this video short, I'm gonna keep on going. You could change the shadow type to no shadows, hard shadows, or soft shadows. When you have it on soft shadows, you could actually change the angle of the bake shadow angle. You could change the strength of it, so you could have it real strong, real light. So for this, I kind of passed over it. It says right here, it just controls the amount of artificial softening applied to the edges, so of the edges of the shadow. So it just, yeah, it softens it up or not. And you could also change the resolution. between all these. You could use the quality settings, the low resolution, medium, or high. So low, you can see it's real blurry. High, very high. And then you could also use the quality settings. For those who don't know the quality settings, if you go on project settings right here on edit. So if you go to edit, project settings, and then you're gonna get this tab. You have all these little drop downs. Later on I'll talk about these as well. The quality, this is quality, so you could change, let me make this bigger. You could change all these settings. So as you can see, very low has 0 pixel light. If you go to very high, it has 3 pixel light, and so on. There's aliasing disabled for low. If you go to ultra, there's 2 times, stuff like that. And so yeah, it's the quality settings. So you could use this resolution, could use the quality settings, so whatever it is set to currently. And you could also change those quality settings in like an option menu in your game with a couple buttons. I'll show you that later too. And then there's bias, so you could change the bias of the shadow. As you can see in the game view, the shadow's kind of moving away from the objects. And then there's normal bias. You can see the same thing as well. I could even show you a little better in the scene view. So you can see the normal bias, how it moves. Then near plane, so this is just how far you are from the plane. So right now you can see that it's not disappearing. This is supposed to, when you're away from the shadows, or when you're the further you're away from a shadow, it should disappear, but for some reason it's not. In the description it says controls the value for the near clip plane when rendering shadows, currently clamped to 0.1 units or 1% of the light's range property, whichever is lower. So it's, I guess, whatever is lower on these. There's also cookies. Cookies, you could add a texture. I had downloaded the standard assets pack for in the asset store for this example, but you could make your own cookies. You could, if you don't have it, you could go to the asset store. Right now you have to go on Google Chrome to the asset store, but if you already have it downloaded, you just go to package manager, and then as well, and then you gotta sign in, and then once you sign in, you could get your standard assets. I showed a video previously on how you could actually download an asset that I used to change languages with the click of a button, and you didn't have to use any code. So if you would like to see that video and see also how to download assets, just go to there. But once you're on the assets page, just put standard assets and download that page. Download all those assets, and you'll get this folder. And then you'll be able to click here and change the different cookies. You could even use a particle system, and you could see that it just repeats a bunch of the particle system cookies. Some of these you can't see because if you see the textures, they're a little bigger. And this one was only 64 by 64. These are 256 by 256. So technically, if I made this cube probably way bigger, you would be able to see it, or maybe not. Oh, well, you could see one part of it right there. That would be that for the cookies. You could also make them, like I said, and then after that, you could adjust the cookie size. So if you want to make it bigger, smaller, you could also even use, like, let's say a check mark. Well, you would have to adjust again the cube size so you could see it, but you could use anything you want. After that, you could also draw a halo. It'll draw a halo where the light source is actually at. So I don't know if you would be able to see it, but if I disable it, well, you can't really see it too much, but it draws a halo exactly where the position of it is at. So let's say I move this. If you move this, it don't matter, because like I said, the only thing that matters is the rotation. That's what controls the light. But if I actually move this, you should eventually be able to see the halo in the game view. So you could kind of see it right there, that little halo blur. And then let me lower this, make it better. And then after that, we got flares. Let me turn this off real quick so you can see the flare. Now the flare, it wasn't working for me earlier, but I found out why. So for the flare to work, you have to go on your main camera, wherever it might be, and then you have to add a flare layer. So if you just type in flare layer, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to do nothing else. And then so when you go to the directional light, and then when we add the flare, we could see that kind of like a real flare from a sun, where it blurs your your vision where you can't see. There's different flares. You could also make flares, new flares if you want. If you want me to show you how to make a new flare in a video, I can. Just let me know. But you would right click on this. Later on, I'll cover this as well. All these options, and if you go to create and you go to lens flare and you click on it, it will add a new flare, and then they have different options you could do. And but yeah, I'll cover that on a later video. And then after that, we have the render mode. So a lot of these settings, from shadow type to culling mask, will be on the other lighting stuff. So just well, a lot of these will be on the other lighting stuff, so just try to remember them. I'll kind of go over them anyways. But render mode, there's auto, important and not important. This is just if it's important to render or not, as you can see. And then there's also auto. And then right here, you could affect either everything or nothing. So a lot of the stuff is default. So if I uncheck it, you can see that nothing gets affected by it. Now if I check it back, it does. So you can have different things, different objects in the scene, some that don't get affected by light, some that do, stuff like that, depending on what you're making. And after the directional light, we're gonna kind of darken this up a little bit. So this lighting panel usually isn't here. What I did, I went to window, rendering and lighting, and then it creates that little window box. You could drag it anywhere you want. You could put it here, anywhere you want. I'm just gonna set it right here. And for the SkyBox material, I'm gonna change it to that plain material right there. Actually, I'm not gonna change it to that one. I'm gonna make a dark one. So now, so right here, when you have different skyboxes, you could either download the assets, or you can make them yourself in the program. Right here, you can actually make skyboxes. I think right here, if you go to create, there should be an option right here somewhere for skyboxes. Oh no, sorry about that. Scratch that. If you go to create and you go to material, then in the material one, you could actually you could look for it somewhere right here, skybox, and then you could choose your skybox, and then you can make your own skybox. So technically, this skybox is just a material that goes around the whole scene. So go back to where I was at. Now for directional light, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn off the directional light. It should be dark, or it's supposed to be dark. Yeah, this. A lot of people, what they do is, for the directional lights, they just change it to a blue and give it kind of like that moon effect. So now it's black. We could even lower this a bit so it's a little bit darker. And now we're gonna add another light. This is gonna be a point light. So a point light, as it implies, it just points. Zero this out. It just points downwards, or you could rotate it to point anywhere else. Let me show you here. This is what it creates, a big old range. So if we lower this, we could lower the range down, or we could higher the range like I did on accident. So let's lower it just to affect there. Now we could change the color. For this, I'm gonna, oh, there's also a warning. If you see right here, it says real-time and direct bounce shadowing is not supported for spot and power lights. So what you could do right here is just set it to mixed, and then we'll turn up the intensity. And as you can see, there's a point light now. Now this one you could change the color like any other light. We'll just set it on top of here, or we could set it on top of one of these over here. We'll move the sphere to be right underneath it. And then after that, for the point light, there's then direct multiplier, same thing, helps with the global illumination. And then there's shadow types. So like I said, this also gives shadows the light. So we could change the shadow types to no shadow, hard shadow, as you can see, and then soft shadow. And then also the radius of the shadow, or the bake shadow, and then the strength of it. You could do the bias like the other ones. Like I mentioned, there's a bunch of same settings. You could change the cookie. So for this example, let's show this. So you could change it to, let's say, okay, for some reason, it's not letting me add it. Lets me do the halo. So the halo, as you can see, it's just a light up there where the point light is. So anywhere the point light will be, the halo will be. So you could even have this, let's say, as 0. And well, you can't have it at 0, but you could have it at a low number, and just bring that halo down, and you would be able to see it in game. So you can make a little fog like that. But Unity actually has some way to make a fog, so you don't really have to do it like that. I think it's just acting up. Sometimes Unity acts up. We'll go back to that. Then we'll have flares, same thing as a light. You could have a flare, and you'll be able to, you should be able to see it. Yeah, you can see it. So you could have, instead of a directional light or a point light, you could have this as the sun and make a, I don't know, some creative game like that. And then after that, we have the same thing, rendering mode, if it's important, not important. We have Kohling mask, same thing, depending on what you want to, what layer you want this to affect. And in a previous video, I kind of talked about what layers are, but layers are up here. You could add layers, and you could set each one to individual layers. And Unity creates these already, these 5 by default. They create the default, the transparent, they ignore raycast, water, and UI by default. And then after that, let's see if the cookies work. So they're not working, so I'm not sure if they work on this point light. But yeah, we're gonna move on to something else. Oh, and then near plane. Oh yeah, I think I told you. It depends on where you're at with the camera. And then after that, we're gonna turn this off. We're gonna go to the next one, which would be spotlight. Now spotlight is pretty much the same thing, but it's more of a softer light, you could say. So you could change this to any color as well. You could change, lower the range. You could higher the intensity. It gives you the same warning, so you could just put it as mixed or just set it as baked. And then indirect multiplier, same thing with the global illumination. Shadow type, same if you want shadows. If you don't want shadows at all, you can mess with the shadow strength. You could also have cookies on this. See, this one worked with the cookies. If you've seen the actual image changed, right there you can see it better. This one probably even better. This one was a little better. So if I actually, right here, I don't know if, yeah, that the point light doesn't have the spot range, or the spot angle and the spotlight does. So the spot angle, if you adjust it, it just, if you could see right here in the scene view, you could adjust it and it'll affect more of an angle. So more of an angle will get affected um by that spot angle, but it also has to do with the range. So if you got a high range and you spread out the spot angle, since there's a high range and we have a high intensity, there's a lot of brightness, so we could kind of distribute the light out to the scene. So now, as you can see, it affects the little cylinder right here, or the capsule right here, and it affects everything else. But when I had it at a low range, it didn't even reach the capsule. So now, after that, they also have flares, just like everything else. Then after that, we're done with the spotlight. Now we're gonna go to area light. Now area light, it could only be baked. An area light, you can mess with the width, the height, and the range. Now the range, you can't really see too much, but yeah, it's supposed to be there. Then there's the width, the height, and then of course color. As you can see, there's only that area getting affected right now. You could heighten up the intensity. So if you heighten up the intensity, there's indirect multiplier, and then there's the halo. Now, I've been trying to mess with this for a while, and I couldn't figure out why. You could also add these flares, of course. I couldn't figure out why this wasn't really working. So this, what it's supposed to do is this whole area inside the square is supposed to be lit. It's supposed to have some kind of light. For some reason, it don't have that light. What I'm guessing is that it's because it's baked only, and what we would have to do is generate or bake reflection probes and bake a light map. Like I said, a light map is just pretty much, it takes everything in consideration in the scene view or in the game, and checks what needs to get adjusted with lighting, what light or what objects needs adjustments in lights, and what doesn't need any adjustments at all, what's not going to change, what's not going to move. That way it could calculate the light even faster for performance. So sorry I couldn't show you the area light. I'll keep trying to figure it out, and if I figure it out, I'll show you in a later video. But that would be it for the lights. As I said, there's the spotlight, and then there's the point light. Only difference is that the point light has that spot range. So I'm going to cut it short for this video. Stay tuned for the next part. In the next part, I'm going to show you what reflection probes and light probe groups are. This video is a little too long. I don't want to bore you guys. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, if you thought it was helpful, if you had any additional tips or any additional things that I didn't mention in this video, please add it in the comments below. Thank you once again, and please hit that like and subscribe button. It will really mean a lot to me. And thank you once again.